And we are live. Sorry I was late. I just finished mowing my lawn, then wanted to jump in the shower because I was covered in grass. My hair is all kinds of wild right now. This is what my hair looks like right out of the shower at the moment. So that's why I'm late. Let's get to it. The Disney Nerd. It's not a good sign. I couldn't even say nerd. The Disney Nerd. Hello, Mr. Chandler. How are you this afternoon? I am good. My kids are at their grandparents this weekend, so I actually slept in this morning, which never happens. I'm not someone that's normally able to sleep in, and slept in like till much later than I ever sleep in. It was nice. Stayed up really late too, but so it wasn't actually as much sleep as you'd think, considering how late I slept in. Gamerman, hey Sean, what are your thoughts on this week's Flash? Also, fun fact, the same street that was used during Smallville for the street used for Masonville 1988 is the Flash R.I.P. DMX. I'm a couple episodes behind. I started playing catch up yesterday and was gonna catch up on them, and then wife got home, and so we ended up watching something else. But I'm 2 episodes behind. I was watching them live when the Superman and Lois was airing. And then Superman and Lois is off for a couple months, so then I haven't been watching them live, and I haven't caught up yet, so I haven't checked them out yet. But they are on my television to be watched. Jay Stewart, hello. How are you feeling this week? Good. I actually took a few days off. Needed to get some stuff done around the house. Still have some stuff I need to get done next, probably. March was just like a super busy month, and then February was a crazy month in real life. January was super busy. December was super busy. So it's kind of been like this sprint for me since mid-December. And so I'm trying to slow down for the month of April because not as much stuff's coming out, and so fewer releases, but trying to make sure that they're all solid ones. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what kind of happens. Disney, how do you feel about Wyatt Russell walking away from Phantom and the Winter Soldier? I don't know what that means. I keep hearing these rumors, and I see other articles saying something totally different. I'm not convinced that that's a real thing. Like, the show hasn't even, it's 6 episodes, so I don't think it's a real thing. David Harper Jr., hey Sean, long time no chat. Hope all is well. Yeah, things are going pretty well. Should be yeah, things are going well. Hopefully slowing down a bit. Gamerman, have you seen Napoleon Dynamite? Oh, of course I have. Of course, I was a youth pastor. I worked with teenagers, middle schoolers in particular, when it came out. So working with middle schoolers when the movie came out, that's all they quoted. And then when Nacho Libre right afterwards, so that was my world for a little while because of the people I was working with. So. You know, I've seen Napoleon Dynamite many times and had it quoted to me by middle schoolers 1,000 times more than that. Zachary, a half Marvel, half DC wall. What video are you shooting? You are cracking the code of how this works. You have been paying attention. That is exactly what it absolutely does mean something. So the Patreon selected video that you guys selected last month was top 5 director's cuts that I want to see in light of the Snyder Cut. And then I did a poll asking for suggestions, and there's about 20 movies on the list that were worth doing a video about. I kind of knew it, but I didn't realize just how many. I was like, nah, that's really interesting. Man, that's really interesting. So I changed the concept to top 5 comic book movies for this first video. So that was, it'll come out tomorrow. It's actually shot, it's already edited, and you'll know why it was delayed in just a moment. But so there's 5 that'll be on the main channel. 3 more that will be on Patreon. Actually, I'll probably put the video out tonight. Once I'm done with this, I'll just upload it so you guys can get early access to the one that will be out tomorrow. But and then I'm going to probably turn it into a series because I can do a separate video about Star Wars movies too. But so it's because they're Marvel and DC director's cuts that I'm wanting. And then Cody Leach is the one that proposed the video. And then I think he got excited about the concept. He's like, hey man, there's like 1,000 of these videos. What if we teamed up and I did horror and sci-fi? So he's going to do one on horror and sci-fi. I'm doing mine on comic book movies. That's the story behind all of it. And the reason it was delayed is because when he joined in, it needed just another day to get it done. But so it's good to go. Rich Reviews, I thought the funniest video on YouTube the other day, it's called Libertarian PBS. I could see how that could be. I'm assuming it's a parody video of PBS and Libertarian, so that could be amusing. Javier, hello, Sean. Hello, Javier. David Patterson, I watched all 3 Lord of the Rings extended films in one sitting on Tuesday. Woo, that's a long day. By one sitting, I mean I only took breaks. The only breaks I took were switch out the discs, grab food, and go to the bathroom. It was awesome. Now that is that is an experience right there. Jay Stern, what's your most embarrassing theater experience? The one that comes to mind, it's one that it wasn't embarrassing at the time. Like, I can't think of one where at the moment I was in a theater embarrassed. Well, I mean, I have one that was kind of embarrassing, but the embarrassing part is someone else, and that someone else has appeared on my channel before, so I don't want to throw them under the bus too much, because I've given them enough crap about it. But it's it involved an IMAX, about as prestige, about as event of a movie as you can imagine, and it was funny. But I don't want to embarrass the person because they've been on my channel before. But my story, I think it would be this movie called O, based off Othello, when they were converting all of Shakespeare into high school melodramas, and so it's Othello for high schoolers, and like 20, it was 20 years ago, I guess. And I went to go see it with a group of friends, and we just thought it was the worst movie ever. And so, like, we were like heckling it the whole time, and it was so much fun. And then after the movie, the people sitting behind us got pissed at us. They like wanted to fight us, and they were like threatening the guy that was sitting next to me. And another guy stepped in, like, "Hey, man, we just haven't done." But like, I understand he was. And at the time, I told the story about the crazy people behind us got mad at us. We were watching this crappy movie, having fun. They got mad at us. And then as I got older, I was like, "Oh no, I was the jerk high schooler. Oh man." Oh man, that's embarrassing retroactively. I was the stupid high schooler. So it was the movie O. It was 20 years ago, and me and my buddies were heckling the movie and made some people really mad about it. And now that I go to movies and get mad about the high schoolers heckling movies that won't shut up, I have a different perspective. Oh, I guess the other embarrassing kind of one that I was too old for this one, but it was Jupiter Ascending. I saw it at a press screening. This wasn't tied to anything related to my channel. This was before my channel. But Jupiter Ascending, and my buddy got public passes to the press screening. So we were in it, and the whole movie was out of focus. And so then I was kind of heckling the movie once again with the person next to me, because it was kind of a goofy, corny movie, and it was out of focus. So there was just like a bunch of meat to crack jokes. And so I was kind of embarrassing my buddy, and I should have responded better to it. Zachary, I watched your Justice League 2017. You were a lot kinder on that movie than you are now. Yeah, I think I gave it a C+, something like that. I didn't, but trash it. And I say that, like, in my rankings. If you pay attention to what I say in my rankings, like, yeah, when I first saw it, it was like, I thought it was mediocre, bland, awkward. And then as we learned more about it, it just became a grosser and grosser movie. And that's fully what I stand by. I mean, movies are, some people, they perceive that you should just, what's in front of me, try and objectively, I don't take things that way. There's all kinds of things that factor into the actual feelings I have about a movie. And so if I watch a movie and I'm disgusted by the process by which it came into existence, that factors into what I'll say about the movie and how I feel about that movie. Because I'm a human, we're complex beings, and that's the reality of my feelings about it. Is like, this is messed up. This is not right. And so then the more we learned, the more I kind of went down. But I mean, I believe I went in expecting to give it a B, and I think I gave it a C+ initially. Like, I assumed I went. Sometimes I go into movies thinking I can guess what I'm going to rate it. Like, I'm pretty sure I'll give it like a B, but an 8 out of 10. I'll probably have a lot of fun with it. And I was like, ooh, this is kind of weird. And some of it's amusing. It's nice to see people together. It looks weird. It feels jumbled to cut together. And then as time passed and we heard more and more about what they did to Zack Snyder and everything, it was like, oh, this is nasty. That's kind of what that is. And I do that with a lot of movies. I'm very much believe that our opinions on things change and shift with time, and it's a process. That's why giving scores to movies is tricky, because your experience with the movie when you first watch it is very different from when you watch it the 10th time. In a movie you watch 10 times, that says a lot about your experience with that movie. It's a very complicated thing reviewing movies and our experiences with them, at least from my perspective. Christopher, I see what you're saying about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but I'm still really liking it. Do you think so far WandaVision has been stronger show overall? Yes. At the moment. WandaVision started awkward for me, got very intriguing, very engaging in the middle, and then ended with a bit of a lull. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I thought started with some potential, and I'm feeling like it kind of it's like I enjoy individual episodes, scenes, action sequences, interactions, plot lines. Like, you're like, if someone asked me, hey, do you like this? I'd say yes. Do you like this? Yes. The thing I don't like is the through line. I don't think the main actual way the story is being told, that's what's not working for me. And so it's tricky because people are like, oh man, why don't you like the show? It's like, well, I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm not saying I don't enjoy the show. I'm saying I don't. There, all of the accessories, all the pieces, I'm on board with. It's the thing tying them together that's not working for me, or that's lacking. Maybe that's a better way to phrase it. And once again, it's also the package. If these individual episodes were part of a longer season, I would interpret them differently. As individual episodes of a 12-episode season, I would interpret what's happening very differently than when it's 6 episodes, and so it's kind of like a long movie broken up into 6 pieces, and you're like, wait, we're 2/3 of the way through it, and what is the conflict we're trying to overcome? That's my kind of issue. David Harper Jr., just watching Zack Snyder's Justice League earlier today. Do you think Ayer cut of Suicide is likely? Man, it is so tough to say because Warner Brothers is so weird about it. They're so weird about everything. And so their executives said, like, no, we have no plans to do that. And David Ayer's been on Twitter, been like, why not? Like, he literally retweeted an article saying, executive says Ayer cut won't happen. And he, like, retweeted, like, why not, with an emoji. And it's like, man, this guy, he is not holding back whatsoever. But, up until about 2 weeks before they announced the Snyder Cut, I never thought I wouldn't think that thing would happen for 15 years. So I don't know. And then even kind of the perception of how well the Snyder Cut did, there's like wildly conflicting reports as to how successful it actually was. My understanding is the Ayer Cut wouldn't require nearly as much to finish it, because some of it's just because it's not as long of a movie. He was involved much, like he wasn't replaced, and so and he said that he's like tomorrow's video I'll talk about it and show quotes from him. But like he even said whenever they announced Snyder Cut, and he made his first tweets about wanting to do an Ayer Cut. He said it wouldn't take much. It would be very cathartic for me. Like, it'd be a nice experience to actually get the right version of the movie out there, because my name is attached to something that does not represent what I wanted to make. So but all the politics of it, it's tough to say. And I'll put this out there because it's Patreon. It's not on my main channel. Don't share this too much. So I did that the sponsored video week over HBO Max, and the big question everyone had was, why didn't I include the Zack Snyder Cut? They told me not to. They told me not to mention it. There's a sponsorship for HBO Max, and they told me not to mention the Snyder Cut. I don't know what that means. That was crazy to me. Like, it's crazy it is to you. It's that crazy to me. And I don't know what that means. If, like, specifically they're like, let's do this, but we don't want to make it too big of a deal of what we're about. I don't know. But it struck me as seeming to mean something, that they specifically did a sponsored video to promote their service, and they didn't want me to mention it. So keep that on the download. There's 11 of you watching or whatever, but I don't know who would mention it, but yeah. The Disney Nerd, I rewatched the original Beauty and the Beast. I still absolutely love it. I stand by it was one of the greatest animated films of all time, but only issue with it is Gaston. I don't. Arrow to the right. By his motivation for all the choices he makes throughout the film. He's so childish in nature, and I get he's supposed to be kind of a minor mirror image of the prince before he became the beast. I think if you just have a pompous person that wants to have attention, doesn't deal with rejection well, and naturally charismatic, but not with a servant's heart, you can be dangerous. So I've never had issues with his motivation, but I'd have to watch it with that in mind. Pascal, is your HBO DC bracket showdown with the version of Superman 2 Lester or Donner? It doesn't make a difference to me. I don't rate them dramatically differently. I think each of them are flawed. It wouldn't change it for me. The Lester cut is a more streamlined film, but it has all the stupid Lester stuff in there. There was a guy that didn't understand Superman, so he put stupid stuff in there, and it's missing some elements that clearly, like, why did you cut out the part explaining how Superman got his powers back? Like, why would you cut that out? And it comes down to, like, they didn't want to pay Marlon Brando or something like that. But then you get the Donner cut, which would be the better version of the film, but it uses like test footage. It recycles the ending of the first movie, and so it has its own faults. It's like a rough draft of a better film. One is a slick version of a lesser film. So I don't dramatically have a different perspective. Jason, why was your recent Falcon Limited review shorter than normal? I mean, I don't like I mean, I don't have a. I don't really have a compelling reason why. I'd make the video that I think is my best video to make about something, and I did my certain reviews in one fashion, other ones in different ones, based off what feels natural to me and what I have to say. Part of it is that when I did a week, kind of a walkthrough of the second week's episode, I had all these people in the comments calling me a racist because I didn't pause to discuss systemic racism in America, because I did a walkthrough and didn't pause on the thing they wanted me to pause on. That meant I was a racist. And it just kind of go, like, I just don't, like, I mean, sometimes I debate just not even reviewing stuff if I think that the comment section is going to get too weird. I mean, no matter what I do, people criticize me. So, and they second guess my choices. So I do the best I can, and you just kind of have to accept that whichever path I choose, someone else will want me to take a different path. And that's, as soon as you have an audience, if you think even 1,000 people watch something, and a lot more than 1,000 people watch everything I post, 1,000 people watch it, just 1% really don't like it, that's still 10 people really don't like what you did. And multiply that by these, all my Falcon Winter Soldiers get to go over 10,000 views. That's over 100 people don't like what I'm doing. If it's just 1% that don't like what I'm doing, and just 1% of that 1%, suddenly you're getting quite a few nasty comments. And I make the best videos I can. Rich Views, thoughts on the All-Star game moving from Georgia to Denver? I don't like to chime in on politics or anything like that. I don't know really enough about it to say something informed. So I don't want to go into it too much, because as soon as I dive into something that I read this thing, I saw this thing, but I don't really have a full knowledge of it. So the only thing that I've heard is that supposedly Denver in certain ways has more strict voting laws than this new Georgia bill. But that's very superficial knowledge, in which case I think that people make these knee-jerk reactions. They like, okay, we don't like this, so let's do this other thing, but they don't think through the whole process of the implications of what they're doing. And that hypocrisy is what frustrates me. But I don't, like, even in saying that, I don't know enough about this to really chime in on it without violating the principle that I just said of saying hypocritical things, because I could be very ignorant in what I'm saying. So in so much as I have somewhat of an understanding of that, then that's the hypocrisy is what frustrates me. But I just don't like I don't know. I don't think everything should be intertwined. I'm a movie critic guy, so you should be able to talk about it without everything needing to turn into all our divisions in society. And the baseball all-star game doesn't have anything to do with Georgia voting laws. So I was like, I don't know what we're doing. I don't follow baseball, so that stuff. We should be able to enjoy baseball and be able to talk politics, but I don't think everything should be intertwined. And as soon as you intertwine them, you just immediately start contradicting yourself. And I'm doing that as I'm talking right now. Disney nerd, buy his motor. Oh yeah, we did that one. Dave Madison, I've been watching through all the Stanley Kubrick films, and I only have Full Metal Jacket, Eyes Wide Shut left. I love most of them. He's one of the classics. And then AI is the Stanley Kubrick film that Spielberg took over on, and seems like a very odd choice to replace Kubrick, since they are like very opposite in what they're famous for. Procrastinator. I have noticed that in both WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier, the release schedules caused both shows to have a slow start. Do you think Disney will ever change the release format? We're Disney Plus as a format is only a year and a half old, so it's very new. They're figuring this all out. I don't think anything is set in stone for eternity. And I think that they are paying attention to the data, they are learning, and they are adjusting. But at the same time, we're a year and a half in, and they seem to have continually done weekly releases. So that seems to be what they're wanting to stick with. But, so I think they might also just reevaluate how they design their shows, too, to figure out how to engage people. But I'm sure they pay attention to all of that. Who do you think has the best trilogy overall? Captain America. I don't even think it's close. I have a ranking of actually the trilogies, the MCU trilogies, but Captain America I think is by far the best one, because Thor. I think Captain America has 2 movies that are great, and then one that's really good. Iron Man has one that's great. One that's one of the worst in the MCU. I mean, Thor and Iron Man both have. People argue that which one of those is the worst movie, and I don't think Captain America: The First Avenger is even close to being as low as those two. And then, if you're talking about what's the best of each of them, I mean, Winter Soldier for most people have it on top. I like Civil War even more. In which case, immediately it's way above the other two. I think I like. It's not even really close for me. It's very distinctly the Captain America trilogy for me. David Arbor Jr., my most embarrassing theater moment, I was the only one to laugh loudly at a few jokes at Jojo Rabbit with a crowded theater. The lady next to me gave me a dirty look. Yeah, man, that can be one of the worst is when that happens. I saw Jojo Rabbit at a film festival. Actually, I actually worked the red carpet for a film festival. And so, like, Taika Waititi was, this far away from me. Like, I could have touched him. And Stephen Merchant as well. I was too shy to ask any questions, but, like, I could have, like, we were right there just snapping pictures, asking questions as they walked in. And so our audience was, like, and they gave us shirts, too. They gave us Jojo Rabbit shirts. So my audience was, like, great for that one, because that is an awesome experience to watch a movie, with the director right there. Zachary, do you think Sharon is the power broker in Falcon and the Winter Soldier? Yes. Yes, I do. Rich Reviews, if you were in charge of either Star Wars or Star Trek universes, what proposal would you make to either franchise? I would go with Star Trek. I'll pick Star Trek. Star Wars, I don't know what to do with that one. They've got some things going on that are cool and some things that are not so cool. In Star Trek, I think right now it's all pretty bad. I would cancel everything they're doing right now, and then I would go back and I would try and come up with a back to classic, exploring strange new worlds, allegorical storytelling, and figure out how do you modernize that, but not do whatever the crap they're doing with Picard and Discovery. But I wouldn't do it as I think Star Trek thrives on television when you understand the concept, and that is, so it is intentionally a little bit episodic. Each week we go to a new world, we explore a new place, have a new adventure. that's episodic by nature. And as much as I love the Star Trek 2, 3, 4, that classic trilogy, Star Trek 6, I think there have been great Star Trek films, but it was built on the back of a television show and the relationships from that. And so I think just starting with movies and trying to turn them into big blockbusters, you miss what makes Star Trek distinct, which is kind of the more it's not supposed to be action-packed roller coaster. As much as I enjoy Star Trek 2009 and what JJ did with it, that's not really what Star Trek is supposed to be. And so I would get back to what they did with Next Generation, what they did with original Star Trek, but with modern technology. If it's a little bit serialized, that's totally fine, but I think it would just get back to the heart of the Federation, Gene Roddenberry's worldview and concepts and stuff like that, and not do all and it wouldn't be just Easter eggy like, I really don't particularly care much for what they've done with Star Trek on CBS All Access and now Paramount Plus. What's a movie from your childhood that you never hear anyone talk about? A movie from my childhood I don't even talk about. So it's tough to say because I'm in the world of talking about movies. So I'm trying to think what's a movie that was like huge for me that hasn't really continued on. And like the one that's coming to mind, and I don't think this even really applies, but Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, for whatever reason, that one's coming to mind. I loved this movie back in the day and watched it all the time. And it doesn't seem one that's talked about a ton, but then again, this channel I follow, Viking Samurai, he did a video on it a few weeks back and interviewed one of the guys that worked on it, that trained the lead guy in it. But yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not coming up with one that's interesting, I don't think. The Phantom, it was a kind of after Batman 89 came out, there actually was a lot more comic book movies. Maybe this is the direction I'll go with it. There actually was quite a few comic book movies that came out after it, but they picked a weird direction. They picked like the noir aspect of it. So you had like Dick Tracy. Dick Tracy was huge back in 1990, but it didn't kind of disappear. I mean, it was such a distinct look to it, and the color scheme, Danny Elfman's score. But then people don't really talk about Dick Tracy anymore. And then The Phantom, also kind of based off these pulpy comics from the 40s that had Billy Zane in it before Titanic. The Rocketeers, kind of a little bit part of that side of things. The Shadow with Alec Baldwin. And maybe that's the direction I'll go with it. Christopher Art, what's your thoughts on Mighty Ducks Game Changers so far? So I don't know if you've seen this, but on Sean Chandler Plus, the YouTube channel Sean Chandler Plus, I did a review of the first episode. So I have a review out that I talk about my initial thoughts on it, and essentially they're about the same. The way things have played out I wake up at 6 a.m. on Fridays to watch the new Disney Plus shows. So that was WandaVision, and my whole family woke up, even my wife, who does not wake up early, and we watched the episode of WandaVision, then get the kids ready for go. I'd watch it a second time, and then I'd shoot my review. And the way it's worked out, my daughter likes Game Changers, Mighty Ducks a lot more. She doesn't want to tell me she doesn't really care much for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. She doesn't really tell me that. But she's like, can we watch Mighty Ducks first? So I wake up 6 a.m. Friday mornings, and I watch Game Changers with my daughter. Son sometimes is there. He's not paying as much attention. And then I watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I'm digging it. I mean, there's a bunch of people saying things like, they should have gone more Cobra Kai, and they should have got a more kind of advanced, like, detailed plot lines for it, or some people like, there's too many tropes in this. Oh, they're doing. I think it works for what it is. I think it captures a lot of that underdog vibe of the original film, except you're turning it into a TV show now, and so it's going to takes longer to tell its story, and then you have kind of the comeback journey for Gordon Bombay. That you want that to play out over a season, so. I'm enjoying it enough. It certainly is something that watching with my daughter, it's fun. Gamerman, wow, how did Godzilla 2014 go from first place to last? I mean, the reality of it is that every movie in the MonsterVerse for me, in the spectrum of movie reviews, they're all in about this much space. That's how. If you have my favorite movie, T2, Die Hard, Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones, And then down here, I don't know. I don't even know if I put even but total garbage, unwatchable garbage. Yeah, Human Centipede 3 down here. And then you have just kind of totally blah stuff right here. Mediocre stuff. Watchable, but not necessarily good, not stuff I want to rewatch. All the MonsterVerse movies are kind of like all right here. They're all these Taco Bell movies. I'm totally fine to watch any of them. They're all right in here. But what has happened with the franchise with each new release is you reinterpret the franchise differently. And the more down they go down the path of this is schlock value, this is just pure, we're here for monster carnage, the more you interpret the franchise differently. And so now when I watch the first one, it tries to take it a bit more seriously, but it's not like they're not really great characters. And it just doesn't deliver as much of what you want. I think there's a little bit more artistic flair to it, but that's not really what the franchise is. And so as you get into the other ones, they deliver more of the schlock carnage that I want from the franchise. That's it right there. Like, it's not the same thing as going from first on my DreamWorks ranking to last in my DreamWorks ranking. First in my DreamWorks ranking is in, top 10 animated films of all time, and then at the bottom, you just have really bad, just way down here. The spectrum for my DreamWorks ranking is something like this. I mean, it's huge. MonsterVerse is very small. That's why. And honestly, I didn't know I changed it, because I didn't look at my old ranking when I did this video. I just rewatched the movies, wrote new notes, and I had my old notes, but I didn't have the ranking. So I watched them, thought about them, and I went, okay, man, they really, Godzilla 2014, and so someone's also, I pay attention to the comments. I watch other people's reviews and things like that, and sometimes maybe even get a little bit too influenced by them, but like, I don't even remember which person it was, but watched some criticisms of Godzilla 2014, and they phrased things in just the right way that I went, I agree with that now. Like, I was never bothered by the Bryan Cranston's death, him only being in 40 minutes of it, until I heard some people phrase it differently of, it's not so much that he was only in 40 minutes, it's that he was the more interesting character with a more meaningful connection to Godzilla, so him only being in the first 40 minutes is a problem because he's not replaced by someone better. There's my reasons. Brandon, hope you're doing well. Is there a movie you'd watch again in IMAX but wouldn't watch it at home? I mean, I wouldn't immediately phrase it that way. I don't think that's the way I would phrase it about any movie. But like my wife, she watched Zack Snyder's Justice League, and she didn't go, man, I can't wait to watch this again. But she did say, if they put it out in IMAX, I'll go see it with you. It's more things like that is something that comes to mind. I can't think of one. I mean, I will. This is kind of ties into it a little bit, but like Avatar, I saw it in the theater like 3 times, and I didn't rewatch it after it was out of the theater until I did whatever my, I think, $1 billion top highest grossing movies video. Whenever I did that video, I rewatched it, but that was the first time I'd rewatched it in like 10 years. And I love James Cameron, but I rewatch his other stuff way more than that one. Zachary, if somebody was to give you $50 million to make another Die Hard, would you do, or what would you do? Would you do? I was like, what would you do? I'd run off with the money and buy a mansion. What would you do? A 6th movie with Bruce Willis or a reboot? I don't think you can reboot Die Hard because it's been copied so many times. And even in so much that it hasn't been copied, it's too recognizable. As you know, everybody calls the subgenre of a lone person in a building full of enemies. It's Die Hard on a boat under siege, Die Hard on a plane with the president, Air Force One, Die Hard on a bus, Speed, even though that one makes absolutely no sense. And Final Score came out a couple years back. It was the Dave Bautista at a sporting event. Die Hard at a sporting event. So I don't think you can reboot Die Hard because they perfected the formula with that movie. And so I would have to be a 6th movie with Bruce Willis. I think you wait. I don't know what you do. I think you have to get back to kind of the core of it. There were some ideas of like, what if you did a 30 years later, 30th anniversary of the Nakatomi Plaza event, something like that, and it gets taken again. But it's tough. But it would be with Bruce Willis. I think it just has to be. You know, I don't have an immediate pitch for it. I don't think there's a direction to go with it. The one thought that I have had with actually John McClane is that he's one of the most famous New York City cops in film history, and in only one of his movies is he in New York City as a cop. So what if you did like and it's not really a New York City cop movie, even with what they do with Die Hard with a Vengeance. So what if you did an aging Bruce Willis as a New York City cop, being a New York City cop, not fighting a terrorist, but what if you did something like that, and it's like called McClane, and it's just a John McClane cop story. Donut Head, I know the rumors are slim to nothing, but hypothetically, would you like to see Toby come back for a Logan-style Superman, Spider-Man 4? No, not at all. I mean, because Logan is kind of intentionally a very dark. That's what Logan means to me. It's a dark send-off that fit that character. Wolverine is this brooding character that's always kind of defined him, and so having a dark send-off made sense. Spider-Man is not that. So I would not want a Logan-style Spider-Man 4. I don't think Logan-style fits the Spider-Man character. Jay started, where do you put all your Blu-rays when you run out of room on your shelves? I mean, the shelves go all the way over there, so I would need to like triple the number. Well, let me see. I'd have to more than double the number of Blu-rays I have to do that. So I don't see myself increasing my collection pace at that speed. Dave Patterson, I got my Blu-ray for Director's Cut of Watchmen since I cannot find it anywhere online. I can find the Ultimate Cut though. Yes, that's where I've been. I watched the theatrical cut for my Zack Snyder ranking that I did before. I'm still not sure what I'm going to do when Army of the Dead comes out. I want to do something with it, but I'm planning on watching a different version of Watchmen for that, assuming I do something. And so I'd probably do Ultimate Edition. But yeah, the director's cut is surprisingly difficult to find. The Disney Nerd, were you allowed to use their cut in your HBO Max sponsored video? If you were allowed to, would you Superman still have won in your opinion? Don't know. Actually, I'm not sure if that's true. There's a whole backstory on. Let's just say I pitched a better video, the pitch was the 16 highest rated DC movies on HBO Max. And I did make that bracket. I don't remember who won, but I don't want to say until I don't want to get myself committed to that until I do a video where I have to. And then they told me I couldn't use Nolan or Snyder Cut. They told me that. So please, shh. This is a private conversation between me and my friends, you guys. So they told me that. I don't know if they want me to not say that or anything, but like, why was Nolan not in there? Why was Snyder Cut not in there? They told me not to mention them. Like, okay, but you do realize that those are the biggest draws. That's what'll make the video work, and what they didn't want me to mention it. Are you excited for Jackass 4? I wouldn't say excited. I'm totally fine with it. I don't watch Jackass in my free time, but I have watched Jackass before, and it's always made me laugh. So I'm sure a Jackass ranking will happen when it comes out, but I'm not I wouldn't describe myself as excited for it. Zachary, did the DC movie bracket do well enough that we can expect more of those? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to stop mentioning things from the process of making that video, but say there's things I could have done that would have made the video do a little bit better that they just had opinions on. They were wrong, but they had opinions and they have their own value set, so fair enough. But yeah, I mean, the even as is, the number of views that it got was good enough that we could expect that something along those lines. So, I don't know what, but we'll see. I'll yeah, we'll see. We'll see what that looks like in the end. Jay Studdard, I don't care what anyone says about your videos. They are great. I love each video you put out. Keep out doing what fits the content. Keep on doing so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's kind of a weird deal because it's an unnatural thing to have an audience and be able to have that can give you that much feedback. It's not. It's tough to explain because if people say all the time, "Oh, don't listen to the haters" and things like that, but it's that's not why they were really wired. And so for me to be able to be in the comment section and see the good, interact with people, it just opens you up to the bad. And there's people that just write things and they're just being stupid. There's people, the stuff that really kind of gets to me is the ones that have enough truth to it. There's enough of an insecurity there that it touches on something I'm aware of, or something that I'm thinking about. But, it's just of problems to have in the world that people have opinions on your work. That's not the worst problem to have in the world, that people actually care about what I do. Cameraman, have you heard the rumors of Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire returning for a Spider-Man 4? No, I don't. I mean, it just doesn't sound like a real thing. That they would have Spider-Verse, Spider-Man Homecoming, and Raimi all going at the same time. That doesn't sound real to me. That doesn't sound remotely possible. I believe that Tobey Maguire could show up in that upcoming Sam Raimi comic book movie, Multiverse of Madness. I think that's totally possible. But the idea that they're going to have all of these different Spider-Man things going on at once doesn't sound remotely real to me. Matt, are you going to watch the latest Ben Falcone-directed Melissa McCarthy film Thunder Force? I don't know yet. I haven't decided. I'm kind of backlogged at the moment at stuff I'm trying to get watched because I've got time, but I just have a lot of things on my list, and I was so swamped last month that I'm kind of also wanting to have some breathing room, and so I'm just not rushing really to watch a movie that I'm mildly interested in, and I don't know how much my audience is interested in. So, and it kind of snuck up on me a little bit too, but it was never really that much on my radar. So, I don't know if by chance my wife is like, "Hey, let's watch that tonight," then I'll watch it and throw a quick review on my second channel, but something like that. David Harper Jr., I am acutely in the process of getting my wife caught up in the MCU. Tonight is going to be Iron Man 2. She has been warned of the general consensus on it. Yeah, I think also, like Iron Man 2, I think if you're not familiar with the MCU, it probably plays better. I think because people didn't like turn on it when it first came out because it was like, oh, it's more Iron Man. And so we appreciated just having more Iron Man. But then when you jump forward 10 years and we have more Iron Man in the Avengers and Captain America Civil War, and he's been in all these Spider-Man, all of a sudden Iron Man 2 just, the benefit of more Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man is not as, the novelty isn't as interesting. But yeah, it's one that with time seemed to look much worse by comparison. Even look at the reviews. The reviews for it aren't very bad. They're like every movie in the MCU. They're positive. Based off the general consensus. David Patterson, which franchise is more inconsistent, Star Wars or X-Men? I would go with X-Men. I don't know offhand. I'd have to map it out a little bit. It's also tough because it's like Star Wars is much more personal to me in a lot of ways. More of my childhood, more grew up with. It's also much more generational, so it's tricky. It's twice as old, so I don't know. I think the offenses in Star Wars sting more. That's why people spent 40 years or 35 years waiting for Luke Skywalker to return, and so they were deeply offended. A lot of people weren't. by Last Jedi, people think that X-Men Origins Wolverine sucks, but no one feels betrayed by it. And I think that's where it's tough to compare them, because it feels like there's a bunch of things with X-Men that was like, that movie was just kind of a dud. And then with Star Wars, it was like, that movie kind of stabbed me in the back. Different experiences. Disney, were there any moments in Godzilla vs. Kong that made you laugh out loud? I'm not sure. I don't know offhand. Jay Start, thoughts on 7. I might have a review of it here on Patreon. I'm not sure if that's a thing. I think I have a review on Patreon. It's like an exclusive. Let me see if that's a thing. I did a ranking. That's the best place to kind of find my concise thoughts on it. I mean, I did a couple Fincher ranking and then Fincher Nolan. So I have my organized thoughts there, but I'm obviously it's a great. Why can't I find a more reasonable way to sort these? Sorry. Yes, November 25th. I have a review for it. If you go back to November 25th, you'll find a review for 7 on Patreon. But I mean, it's a classic movie. If you want my quicker thoughts, then my Fincher ranking has them. Rich Reviews, would you rather see a live-action version of either The Rescuers, Oliver and Company, or The Great Mouse Detective? I wouldn't want any of those live-action, because they're not designed to be live-action. They're talking animal movies, and so talking animal movies, they don't work live action. Like the concept of a photorealistic animal immediately, like you saw this with Lion King. It's like, this is incredible technology, what you've been able to do with this, but it like you, as soon as you do that, lions don't make facial expressions like humans. They don't emote like humans do, and so you just get the concept is entirely lost. So I wouldn't want any of those. Zachary, how much of Legends of Tomorrow have you watched? What is the percentage that you will overrank the seasons? I know it's a lot of work to watch, but I would really enjoy seeing the video. I've seen the first season and then sprinkled other episodes. I don't know what the percentage is. It's incredibly difficult to do it. Legends of Tomorrow would be easier to watch through because it's I could watch it during the day with my kids around. Something like Game of Thrones, I have to watch it after my kids go to bed. But, you know, I can only have like one of those shows going at a time. And people want me to watch Walking Dead, obviously Game of Thrones, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Legends of Tomorrow. And then there's new shows that are airing right now. People want me to watch Invincible. So it's just watching a show that's moderately successful that I have no clue how a ranking would do on my channel. All I know is that when I did that with Supergirl, a show that I don't really follow, but then did a ranking on, it just didn't. It was a very poor use of time, an extraordinarily bad use of time. If I put it in perspective like this, so to watch 4 seasons of Supergirl, 22 episodes each, what's that? You're talking about 80 episodes. They're not a full hour each, so 60 hours. 60 hours, and the video got under 20,000 views. So 60,000 hours for 20,000 views. Trailer comes out for Loki. I watch it. Takes me 2 minutes to watch it, film my reaction, talk about it, watch it a second time. Filming process takes 10 minutes. That was watching it and filming. It takes 10 minutes. It takes me 10 minutes to edit it. Video gets 20,000 views. More views than my Supergirl ranking got. 1 hour of work versus 60 hours of watching a TV show. Now, with the second channel, if I watch through it, I'd probably do like what I'm doing with Game of Thrones, and I review each season, but I just don't. Of the shows that I would attempt to watch, I just don't. At this moment in my life, there's just too many other things. Like, people want me to rank this Kubrick movies. Okay, do I watch Legends of Tomorrow or Kubrick movies? Or any number of other people you can throw out there, things that are coming out with that I could do a ranking for. 60 hours for a video that I don't know what it'll do. Don't know what Kubrick ranking will do, or and here's the frustrating one. Like back to 7. My David Fincher ranking, 20,000 views, something like that. Wasn't a total bomb, but didn't do as well as I'd hoped. Did a little underperformed, at least in my mind. Loki trailer reaction, 1 hour of work, about as many views. They're not quite comparable. There's a number of other factors that go into it. But that's where I'm trying to think, like, okay, how do I make the best videos with I only have so much time. I can only watch so many things. So what am I going to spend that time on? And how much that I'm going to enjoy, other people will enjoy the content. They're constantly making those decisions because there's always more that I can cover. So I have to decide what's the right thing, balancing my enjoyment and success. And it's tough. It's very tough. Cameraman, do you think Captain Luther's first name is Lex or not? Not since he's only called Captain Luther. I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it. I didn't really pause to think on that one. Because in the case of him, the other characters they've shown us from the other Earth are a little bit more one-to-one comparisons. He's obviously not. Does not look like John Cryer at all. So I'm going to go with no. I'm going to go with no. His name isn't Lex. I am not betting money on that. But since you asked the question, I'll go with no. Dan Patterson, after I watched Godzilla vs. Kong, I had a hard time placing it in my ranking of MonsterVerse, but was barely able to crack top place since I really do like Godzilla 2014. Honestly, both of my MonsterVerse rankings that I did, the final fights and the movies, were really tough. They are, for only being 4 movies, were really tough because in my mind they really are pretty. They're very tight for me. Each of them have things I like about them. Each of them have their strengths, and each of them have their obvious weaknesses. And there's a lot of overlap too of strengths and weaknesses of weak characters, fun monster fights. Matt, Godzilla vs. Kong had the best monster action, but I think Skull Island had the best and most fun human characters, especially so many MCU alumni. Very true. Marvel in general alumni, because you can throw Doctor Doom in there too. Was in there. But yeah, it's I think Kong Skull Island, I think it does a bunch of really cool things. There's a bunch of cool things about that movie. That's his problem. Absolutely. Absolutely does. But, yeah. Jay Sutter, are you a morning person or a night owl? By default, I'm a night person. I can stay up pretty late. Now that I am my own boss and also that I have kids and have to determine my own schedule, I'm much more able to wake up in the morning and kind of drive my own schedule and stuff like that. But and I do a lot of things to try and think how do I have the most productive day and get the most done, even though I can wake up whenever I want. But it's something like my body, I can't sleep in very well, especially if the kids are at the house. Actually, right now, a lot of the times, even with the way the lights are in our house, if there's light in the room, I'll wake up. And so normally, if I am going to try and sleep in a little bit longer, I actually come in here in my office because I black out the window in my office and I sleep on this couch right over there. I'll frequently, there's blacked out windows. So it's not uncommon for me to, once things get noisy or the sun comes up, I just walk up here and sleep for another hour or something like that. Ricardo, hey Sean, watching Justice League 2017, I'm wondering if the slow-mo market kicking at the beginning was a discarded Snyder scene or a Whedon reshoot being like, what would a Snyder opening shot look like? Honestly, I was kind of surprised that wasn't. I thought the way that played out, because it's, I don't remember what the song is, but Zack Snyder uses a lot of music in his, popular music in his movies. So I was kind of surprised when that wasn't in the Snyder cut. I'm actually kind of with you on that one. Final question. What are your overall thoughts on John Williams returning for Indiana Jones 5? He's 89. Right now he's 89. They haven't started shooting yet. And Harrison Ford is 78 right now. So by the time they're filming, you'll have a 90-year-old composer with an 79-year-old action star. I don't think they should have gone in that direction. That's maybe someone could convince me that they could show me the work that he's done in his 80s that was really good, but I don't know what it is. Like his work on Star Wars, I think those are his weakest scores of his Star Wars scores. Granted, his work on the original trilogy, there's nothing better than that. For that matter, his work on the prequel trilogy, all the problems you might have with them, John Williams' score isn't one of them. And then you get to the sequels, and then I just don't think the magic is there anymore. He spent 45 years as 40 years, maybe 45 years as the top film composer. That is a long run, but eventually, you can tell when you're listening to a John Williams score, but I never felt like he really repeated himself. James Horner is my second favorite composer of all time. I was watching Clear and Present Danger, the Jack Ryan movie with Harrison Ford in it last night, and James Horner composed the score for it. And the main score for it is very different from most James Horner stuff. But then a couple of scenes in it, the score, you hear the music, and it sounds like something straight out of Star Trek 2, out of Star Trek 3, out of the movie Aliens. He reuses a lot of his stuff. And I haven't felt that John Williams did that. But I don't think the magic is there anymore. So I think I would have gone in a different direction. I think let John Williams hang out in his mansion and enjoy film for a little bit, and whatever that would be for him. But obviously the fact that he's still working means that composing is what fulfills him. He hasn't needed to work for a very long time. That he's chosen to still keep working. So he can do whatever he wants. I think the score probably would have been better if they brought in new blood. Brandon Bertram, do you think Sony Marvel will let Tom Holland's Spider-Man grow up eventually? I'm worried that the studios think he has to be a kid for some reason and will just reboot again. Well, I would guess that it has a lot to do with how long it keeps making money. The other strong point on there is that there's what Sony would think, and then there's what Kevin Feige would think. And Kevin Feige, I think, would have a little bit more maturity than the simplicity of like, no, we have to have a young Spider-Man. As long as his movies are making $1 billion, he's got job security. If you put out a movie every 2 years, it makes $1 billion. Every 3 years, it makes $1 billion. I don't care if he's in college, grows up, but maybe when he grows up and gets a job, and he's no longer a kid, maybe he won't resonate with the audience like he used to. Part of the reason that those movies and characters are so popular is that Spider-Man inherently connects with young audiences. He's fun for all ages, but he's the more relatable character because he's a kid, and these movies have a young audience to them. So inherently, if you lose your high school superhero, there's a gap there. So we'll see. I don't know. I think it entirely depends on how long they're able to keep making money with him and how long he wants to keep playing the part. Gamerman, are you worried about Magneto's origin story not being told in the MCU since he's Holocaust survivor in the comics and the X-Men franchise? And mutants have not existed in the MCU in the 1940s have already happened. Some of that's the reality of these characters are now a lot older. You have to update the characters. It has to change. Because, as you mentioned, a character that started in the 1960s as a Holocaust survivor, that's an event from 20 years in the past. And by the time you get to the 90s and the early zeros, you can have an old man that's a Holocaust survivor. And then you get to now, if he was born during the Holocaust, he's 80 now. He's 75 now at the youngest. And so you inherently have to update them. That's the reality of these. And so that's sort of, I've never been one to that level of comic book purity. I've never been like that at all. That's the reality of it. And all these characters, if you want to reboot Rambo, you don't make him a Vietnam vet. You make him a vet of the Afghanistan war. You change it up, even though I don't think that it doesn't translate the same, because the response to soldiers from the last 20 years is not the same as the response to soldiers in the 70s. But you just have to find ways to contextualize it for the new setting. So I'm not worried about it, and I guarantee you they would change. Well, there's a possibility there. There's the possibility of what if they built a 1960s universe of characters. What if the Fantastic Four, X-Men, that part of the MCU is set in the 60s, and then you get a young Hank Pym in there too. You could do something like that. I don't know. I don't think they would do that, but they could. Zachary, could you do more top 10 highest grossing ranked videos? I have a top 20 highest grossing video game movies ranked coming in a couple weeks. But yes is the answer to your question. It looks like we got a couple months now that are slow, so things like that are probably going to be something I'm going to lean into a little bit. And I need to do a better. The last year, obviously, it's been difficult to map out my schedule, because as soon as you write a schedule, then Paramount says, by the way, we're changing all of our dates. And so I can't map it out too far in advance, but right now I could probably map out April and May. So I need to map some of those out. So I'll probably have some of those in there. And one that John Campea did that was not really his wheelhouse, but is my wheelhouse. He did every billion-dollar film ranked. It was like 39 movies, I think, when he did it. And I think he did it a year ago, so there's not any new ones. So that's one that, taking his idea, do that one. Give him credit, of course, and there's send people over his way. But, yeah, absolutely. Even as I say that, I actually probably should just look at the gap in May. Where's there a gap, and make that video happen and see. Most of those movies I probably would need to rewatch, too, because it's the sort of stuff that I watch a lot. So, yeah, maybe that's what my homework assignment will be tonight, working on that video. Dave Redison, have you seen Doctor Strangelove? I absolutely loved watching. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my sister introduced me to it. I don't know if where she watched it, where she got into it, but like that became like a thing that she started quoting to me, the fluids speech, and I've seen that one many times. Not recently, but that was one that I actually put on a good bit back in the zeros and late 90s and stuff like that. And you got a young James Earl Jones in there, and it's especially given the rest of what Kubrick's movies are known for, it's an interesting anomaly. Do you watch a movie every day, or have you ever get tired of watching movies? So last year I watched 500 movies, over 500 movies total. So you average that out, it was like 1.5 movies per day. So that's a lot. And you have to be pretty consistent on it. But at the same time, you have to stop and think about it. There's days that I watched 3 movies in a day. And, I don't watch all of them the same way. If I'm watching a movie that I've never seen before, I sit there and I just watch it. If I'm watching something I've seen many times before, but I'm rewatching it for ranking, I'm probably editing a video while I watch it. Just trying to pay attention. What did I not miss? But I know the story, I know the characters, I know the jokes. So I'm just trying to watch it now, and as a critic, trying to think, how can I have a new insight? How can I articulate my feelings on it a little bit better? But that doesn't require sitting there intensely just watching it. And then even beyond that, there's movies that they require your full investment. Other ones don't. So, but there are times that I get a little bit tired of. I get tired of having a schedule for what I need to watch. That's more the thing that exhausts me more so. Not as much the just watching movies. So it's tricky when you're, because watching things is like the fuel for being able to create content. So I'm always trying to be strategic about what I watch, and that's that you get burned out on that. But then it's the way my brain is wired up for efficiency and effectiveness. It can be tricky, frustrating. Matt G, how are the theaters by you? They selling out? I tried to see Godzilla vs. Kong, but it was sold out due to limited capacities. Godzilla vs. Kong was very full. Those are the most full I've seen in the theater in a year, obviously. And even I saw Tenet, New Mutants, Wonder. I went to a Wonder Woman showing that was. It was an advanced screening. That was very full, but it was an advanced screening. Like it was like high demand. But other than that, of just normal public screenings, this was by far the one that had the most people at the theater. And it was more important, not just the theater I was in, but the lobby had a lot of people in it. That hasn't happened in a year, where the lobby had people in it. And that's where, people are, oh, it's so dangerous to go to the theaters. It's like, everyone's wearing a mask. There's no one in the lobby, and you're not allowed to be within like 20 feet of anybody. Doesn't seem that dangerous. Gotta give appreciation to you for taking time to interact with your comment section on your videos, since some YouTubers don't bother at all. With where I'm at now, I wouldn't say they don't bother. I would say that you have to cut off at a point, because it's just unhealthy. It's really unhealthy, because you have to think of them as individuals, and it's too much feedback. But I do my best to interact for as many people as I can for as long as I can, without it getting unhealthy. And there's certain videos I just know, like, I want to give my honest opinion, and if I have to interact and defend myself in the comment section, I'm not going to give my honest opinion in the video, because I know what I'm going to... Okay, so I just have to stay out of the comment section. And or I'll only be in there real quick. I'll answer it a couple times. I'll pin the answer to the question that I know is coming, and I'm going to move on. But it's... When you have enough times where you get in the comment section and you feel beat up by going in your own comment section, you start to view it differently. And it's a weird thing where it's like, there's thousands of people that love your content, but the loudest voices are usually the most toxic ones. And you have to do what's best for your own health. So I totally understand where you're coming from, as someone that's spent much longer, many more years in other people's comment sections as opposed to having my own. But the comment section, DMs, Twitter, they really can take a toll. Ever see a Broadway play musical? I saw Les Mis on Broadway in the mid-90s. I've only been to New York City one time. It was for one day. And we did as many things as we could in that one day, and seeing Les Mis on Broadway was one of the things that we did. Wandered around, rode the subway, and and it was 25 years ago. It was actually over 25 years ago. But it's not yes, Les Mis on Broadway. That was my introduction to Les Mis. That. Also, the Office parody musical is going to be the first show to come back to Broadway since COVID. Well, that's fun. Where are we at? Give you take time. Fan Broadway. Next one. Christopher, I know you reviewed Run, Hide, Fight. Do you think the Daily Wire could become a legitimate movie producing company? I wouldn't expect them to be. I wouldn't. It seems like a odd thing for a news organization to put out movies, and I think that will always inherently hold them back, especially because Daily Wire, current political climate, it's just too polarized, and so you create a scenario that people just don't want to. People will write the movie off because of who's making it. So I don't know what the future is. It seems like a very odd direction for a news organization to go, to me. So I legitimate movie producing company, like they're. So the only thing I know they have in the wire, in the pipeline, I said wire because the name is Wire, but in the works is the Gina Carano movie, but conservative news outlet plus Gina Carano. Okay, but who's your director, writer, producer? Like the stuff that actually. So I have my doubts as to how successful they can be with that. Matt G, I would say X-Men films are more inconsistent. They were good one film, then bad, then mediocre, then great. Star Wars fans seem to say one group of 3 films or more or less the same level. X-Men, it's the dynamic shift every single film. I guess that's also to say that if you write off a whole trilogy, a decade of Star Wars films, that's a pretty dynamic shift too. Like, these are the best of all time. The prequels are horrible. These new ones are fun but not very good. And I guess, and I think what people would likewise, people seem to really liked Force Awakens, thought it was fun, derivative but fun. Rogue One seemed to get a pretty good response. Last Jedi, so I think they have their own ways in which they are pretty inconsistent in the way they're so. But I don't know. I don't know how I would map it out to decide that. But they both have pretty dramatic shifts and things. Gamerman, silly question. What YouTuber would you want to get in an argument with? I'm assuming argument means we're discussing something that we disagree with, not Twitter, or not a internet feud, Twitter feud, YouTube rivalry. The argument as in an exchange of ideas. I guess the one that comes to mind is John Campea, because I perceive of him as a reasonable person. I disagree with him sometimes, in which case I would think that if I sat down with him and we had an argument, that I could build a bridge there. I would think that there's a few things where he said that I feel like 80% of the time is a very reasoned take on things, and then there's like a 15-20% where I feel like there's just like a gigantic gap in his logic, and I feel like he's not synthesizing new information. And I'm sure I'm the same way. And so that's one where I think would be interesting, because I have such a large chunk of what he says that I find well reasoned. So I think there's an interesting argument to be had there. Jay Stutter, is the Captain America figure behind you signed by Stan Lee? Where did you get it? This is a Stan Lee action figure, and that's just printed on it. That's not a signature or anything like that. So it's just whatever this series, the Excelsior Stan Lee series. So I think my wife bought it. I didn't buy it. So it's a good one. It's a cool one. She's pretty good at having a good. There's a lot of people in real life that try and be like, hey, would this be a cool thing for your background? And they don't fully get it. She gets it. She understands what I would actually put in my background. Then again, she's there when I'm buying things and overthinking things. So, Zachary, do you have any rankings or top 10 lists in April or May that you're excited for? I'm usually excited for all of them. Let me give you my closeout on this video, giving you my best guess as to where we're headed. I think this next week. So tomorrow's video is top 5 director's cuts I want. Actually, you guys will probably get it today. Top 5 director's cuts that I want, comic book edition, and then 3 more on Patreon. And then I think it's possible I might do a ranking of every Superman movie. I did one like 4 years ago, but my style is quality is dramatically improved. And then I think next Saturday will be Audience vs. Critics Marvel Edition. I don't know what I'm doing the week after that. But then the last 2 weekends get pretty busy, because you get the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, you get Mortal Kombat, and you get the Oscars. In which case, Falcon and Winter Soldier's episodes ranked, Mortal Kombat movies ranked, Best Picture nominees ranked, top 20 highest grossing video games movie ranked. Week after that, you get No Remorse, the new Tom Clancy film with Michael B. Jordan. So then you're going to do Jack Ryan movies ranked. In May should be a Saw ranking, I think. That's about what I've got mapped out. So, but I've got a lot of blank spaces in my current calendar. March was jam-packed, and then May was, but then when they pushed back a couple of releases out of there, it lightened the month up a lot. I might do a Guy Ritchie update my Guy Ritchie ranking because he's got a new one coming out. Saw movies ranked. I'm thinking about trying to do my first tier ranking for my Zack Snyder updated ranking, since it's only 2 months later, so I want to do a different style for it. 101 Dalmatians movies ranked. Maybe Disney live action bracket. Maybe do another bracket on that one. Did that keep streaming? I don't know if that kept streaming or not. I accidentally clicked back on my browser. So maybe you lost you. Maybe I'm back. I don't know. But so that's basically what I'm looking at for the next 2 months. But there's a lot of white space on the calendar right now. I'm not planning to fill every date. I'm planning to try and intentionally do like every other day, and then at least on the main channel every other day. But the video that I do, I want it to like have a more punch to it. I'm intentionally trying to do just a lot of what people really want, what they signed up for, and then on the second channel, some deeper things and individual reviews and stuff like that. So that's what it kind of looks like at the moment. So there you have it. Thank you guys for tuning in. We should be back next week and keep talking movies too much. Bye bye.